A major severe weather setup is taking shape in parts of the United States today, as the Storm Prediction Center has issued a moderate risk of severe weather across northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and southeastern Iowa, where strong to violent tornadoes are going to be a possibility and extremely strong winds. I'm going to be talking about what you need to know about the severe weather potential, so let's get right into it. It's Thursday, June 11th, 2026, and we have a big severe weather setup today out here, as the Storm Prediction Center has issued a very large risk area. There's a marginal risk going all the way to parts of the Great Lakes region and Ohio Valley. They also issued level 2 out of 5 slight risk out here, going from parts of the Texas Panhandle up into the Great Lakes region. There's also another slight risk out here in the Mid-Atlantic. And then we have an enhanced risk out here for parts of northern Missouri. Then we have this level 4 out of 5 moderate risk out here in northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, southeastern Iowa, and those areas. Today is going to be a very unusual setup, as we have an unusually strong upper level trough moving through the area. It's going to be ejecting into the United States, and that's going to be causing a big severe weather chance out there. And our significant tornado parameter and values are also off the charts, but we'll talk about that here soon. If we switch over to our tornado risk for today, there is a 2% tornado risk. So you can still see tornadoes potentially in the 2% tornado risk. So definitely be aware if you're in that green 2% tornado risk. An isolated tornado or two cannot be ruled out in that area. We have a 5% tornado risk, which is this brown, that goes from parts of northern Missouri up into parts of Michigan. There's also a 10% tornado risk in parts of southeastern Iowa, northeastern Missouri, parts of northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, where we could be seeing tornadoes as well. There's actually this 15% tornado risk that was outlined in parts of northern Illinois and parts of southeastern Iowa. And if you see this conditional intensity group 1 risk, which is these more dashed lines, that means we could be seeing EF2 plus strong tornadoes. But you see these more solid lines inside that 15%, that means we could be seeing violent tornadoes, potentially EF3 plus. Definitely make sure you're having a way to get alerts out here, especially if you're in any of these tornado highlighted areas, as strong tornadoes will be a potential today, potentially even violent tornadoes. And then the supercells will be the main concern in the afternoon, in the afternoon, and then they'll kind of congeal into a line into the evening, producing a very big damaging wind threat within these areas. So if you're in these areas this afternoon or evening out here, you need to be making sure you're staying prepared for extremely strong winds, like derecho winds. So definitely be aware for that. For like 60 to 80 mile per hour winds are possible. So definitely make sure you're staying aware for that. Even down here, we have a 30% wind risk in parts of Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Maryland, over there towards Philadelphia, those areas. You guys also need to be staying prepared out there in the Mid-Atlantic for some damaging winds as well. And we're also going to be looking at a big hail risk. I don't think the hail will be too crazy. The main threat for large to very large hail will be within this area. So definitely make sure you're parking your car in the garage so that doesn't get damaged by hail. And I forgot to mention, also strap down unsecured objects so they don't fly away. Tomorrow and Friday, we'll have another severe weather setup out here in parts of the Mid-Atlantic, up into parts of the Northeast. And then there's also another place to be watched for severe weather tomorrow and Friday down there in parts of the Southwest. So we're mainly going to be looking at some damaging winds and hail. As you can see right here, a very low tornado risk tomorrow. I do think that damaging winds will be a pretty big concern out here in parts of the Mid-Atlantic tomorrow. So make sure you have a way to get alerts out here tomorrow on Friday if you're in this red highlighted area. Then there's that 15% wind risk going around that, and then there's that 5% wind risk. So also make sure you're staying prepared for all of that. We're also going to be looking at a chance for some small hail tomorrow out here in parts of the Southwest and out here for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. As we get into Saturday, we have another severe weather threat. There's a marginal risk going from the Texas Panhandle all the way up into the Great Lakes region. Light risk over northeastern Kansas, parts of northern Missouri, southern Iowa, and southeastern Nebraska. And this is for Saturday, so I'm watching Saturday very closely. I don't think tornadoes will be a big concern, but I do think it's going to be a possibility. I wouldn't even rule out a strong tornado, but I do think damaging winds and hail will probably be the biggest concern out of this. Then Sunday, we will have another severe weather potential out here in the Mid-Atlantic on Sunday. As you can see right here, there's a 15% any severe risk probability out here. You guys need to be making sure you're staying aware again on Sunday, as there's going to be another storm system coming through. Here's the future radar for today. It's HRRR. So these are going to be the morning storms that are going to push through right here. Okay, these could produce some damaging winds, small hail, and maybe even a few tornadoes. But then after those storms push through, we're going to get some more storms to start developing out here in parts of the afternoon. And they're going to push through. They're producing a potential for very strong tornadoes, large hail, and some damaging winds throughout the afternoon. And then they'll kind of congeal into a line as we get into the evening, producing destructive, damaging winds in parts of northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, southeastern Iowa, and parts of Missouri. So then they'll congeal into the line, and there will be a QLCS tornado threat with this, which stands for quasi-linear convective system, where embedded tornadoes will be a possibility. As the storm system moves further east, as we get into early morning hours of Friday, they'll kind of start to weaken out, maybe produce a few gusty winds as they enter the Ohio Valley. I do want to take a look at significant tornado parameter values for today, because they're off the charts, as you can see right here. We have so much SIGTOR out here today. It's getting maxed out. If we check out some of these soundings, they're showing PDS TOR, which is just, this could be a very dangerous severe weather setup out here. And our environment is very primed out there in parts of northern Illinois, southeastern Iowa, and our environment is very primed out here, as there's a lot of significant tornado parameter values. And I would say like it's going to be I think violent tornadoes are going to be likely today out here. So just make sure you are having away gate alerts, know where to take shelter if needed, and everything like that. Taking a look at CAPE, you can see here, this stands for Convective Available Potential Energy. This is storm fuel. We're also having a lot of storm fuel out there, getting up to 4,000 to 5,000 joules per kilogram, which is just plenty of storm fuel out there, so definitely also be aware for that. This could be causing this is definitely going to be a very significant severe weather setup out here. But notice how some of the storm fuel kind of goes down as the storms weaken as they move eastward. Taking a look at updraft helicity here, this is kind of where some of those storms could be rotating or producing damaging winds and hail. You can see out here northern Illinois and parts of eastern Iowa and southern Wisconsin and parts of northern Indiana. This is going to be the area I'm watching very closely for strong to violent tornadoes, large hail, and very destructive winds. So yeah, this is kind of just to give you a look at where some of those rotating storm tracks could be going and that updrafts and stuff. So it's going to be a big one out there. Now, taking a look at the mid-Atlantic, you can see we're going to have some more like scattered storms push through here today, producing some potential for some damaging winds out there. So also make sure you're staying aware out there in the mid-Atlantic. I think damaging winds and small hail will be the main concern out there. If you are out there in parts of New Jersey, storms should start entering New Jersey later tonight around 11 p.m. into the early morning hours of Friday. And if you're in Philadelphia, they'll probably get there like around 11 p.m. Eastern tonight. Now, as we get into tomorrow and Friday, we're going to have some more storms pop up out here in the mid-Atlantic, producing scattered damaging winds throughout the area. Some very small hail. And if we go down there into the southwest tomorrow, you can see we're also going to have a few storms pop up out there, producing some hail. I think that's probably going to be the main concern tomorrow out there, so be aware. As we get into Saturday, this is kind of what some of those storms could look like out there on Saturday out there in parts of the central U.S. You can see we're going to have some storms potentially develop out there. I do think damaging winds and hail will be a potential, but I don't think we can rule out maybe a isolated brief spin-up tornado out there, but I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy. So I'm definitely going to be watching this very closely, and a live stream might be needed if it gets bad. But definitely not as favorable as an environment out there for Saturday as it is today. But definitely make sure you're staying weather aware out there. Storms should start developing on Saturday, potentially around 11 a.m., so it should start developing pretty early. They actually might congeal into a pretty decently destructive line, so this is going to be something that we got to keep an eye on if this actually happens. It looks pretty big, so yeah. Now, we're also going to have some chances for some flooding out here today, especially if you're out here in parts of the Midwest. You guys need to be making sure you're staying aware for some of that excessive rainfall. It should continue as we get into tomorrow out within these areas. And then as we get into Saturday, it should continue out here in parts of the central United States out there in the Ohio Valley. So also make sure you're staying aware for flooding, especially if you're in those low-lying areas where that water could fill up fast. So here's some good news for you guys that are going to be getting the severe weather today. After that severe weather is over, as we get into tomorrow out there in the Midwest, you guys will be seeing some very nice weather, okay? So since you guys out there in the Midwest are dealing with severe weather today, don't worry. The nice weather is on the way as we get into tomorrow on Friday. So definitely be aware for all that nice weather that's going to be coming for the same areas that get the severe weather today. So yeah, and that should continue even as we get into Saturday. And we do have a tropical disturbance out here in parts of the Gulf of Mexico. This is a low chance of development. I don't think this is going to pose a big threat. There's a chance that something will develop out here, but I don't think it will. It doesn't look that strong. But if you're out there in parts of Mexico or the southern tip of Texas, be aware for some excessive rainfall out there because of this tropical system, but I do not think it will be anything too crazy. But the National Hurricane Center has a low chance of development. And even if something does develop, I think it will be a tropical depression. And that's all I got for you in today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure you're staying weather aware. Stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.